and Davies.
Diolch yn fawr. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Diolch dirprwy Llefarydd. It's been a pleasure to follow the honourable member of Chesterfield and to hear so many maiden speeches here today, especially from our fellow Celts in Cornwall and, of course, the member from Clwyd East, and to contribute to this important debate. The climate crisis and the need to decarbonise our energy generation are amongst the most pressing challenges of our time, and how we choose to respond will shape the future of all our communities, including those in Carmarthenshire I have the privilege to represent. I am deeply honoured to have been elected to represent the newly formed constituency of Caerfyrddin, which was created from the previous seats of Carmarthen East and Dinefwr and Carmarthen West and South Pembrokeshire. And although new in this Parliament, this constituency has historical roots, having existed under similar boundaries between 1918 and 1997. I would first like to pay tribute to my immediate predecessors, Jonathan Edwards and Simon Hart. And Jonathan served our community diligently for 14 years, demonstrating the essence of being a constituency MP, which is to work hard, to serve all, and to be rooted within our communities. Simon also served for 14 years with dedication, and I acknowledge this to the western parts of Caerfyrddin. Our constituency has a proud history, and it's impossible to speak of it without mentioning Wynfor Evans, who won this seat back in 1966 as the first ever Plaid Cymru MP. His victory was a watershed moment for Welsh nationalism, and I'm acutely aware that I would not be standing here today without Gwynfor. So his name might make a few appearances in this speech today. It's in part thanks to him and those who worked alongside him that Plaid Cymru today represent our highest ever proportion of Welsh seats in this esteemed organisation. And we do not take that responsibility lightly. And it is also thanks to Gwynfor that we are today able to take the oath of allegiance in Welsh and in Cornish, as was mentioned earlier, within this establishment. He was the first MP to attempt to do so in 1966 and was rebuked by the then Speaker. And we have, of course, moved on since those days. But I also want to mention very briefly Megan Lloyd-George, who was the first female MP, and I'm the second, who was the MP for Carmarthen between 1957 and 1966. And it was quite surreal on the morning that I was sung off the train station in Caerfyrddin to find, when we landed in Paddington, that I was on the Megan Lloyd-George, and how surreal that moment was. Caerfyrddin is in many respects a microcosm of Wales. We have the lush, green, Tywi, Taf and Teifi valleys, rich in natural beauty. And to the south and east, we have the proud industrial heritage of the coal mines of Cwm Gwendraeth and Dyffryn Aman. And these communities, like so many across Wales, still bear the scars of that industrial past. Poor housing, low paid work, and poor health outcomes are legacies we must all address. We are all too aware of the effects of that extractive economy has had on Wales. Our land produced vast mineral wealth, yet much of the economic benefit was extracted for the profit of others, leaving our communities to bear the human cost. Renewable energy now presents a historic opportunity for the Welsh economy, and similar to the role coal once played. However, I fear that history has little regard to our communities, and it is in danger of repeating itself. Under this government's Great British Energy Bill, private companies would be encouraged to build wind farms, develop tidal energy, solar, hydropower, carbon capture projects under leasing agreements with the Crown Estate. And let's just mention the Crown Estate for a moment. A company which holds assets in Wales that is valued at more than 853 million in 2023. And despite powers for Welsh natural resources, the Welsh Government has no powers over the Crown Estate, so profits from its leasing to private companies go straight here to the UK Treasury and with a cut for the royal family. These powers were devolved to our friends in Scotland in 2017, so why not Wales? Yeah. The large, often multinational companies which the government will be encouraging to lead development under GB Energy will mean yet again profits flowing out of Wales with little gain for our communities. And ironically, some of these companies are state-owned enterprises, but it's citizens of other nations that benefit rather than our own. I mentioned the lush valleys I represent, and here I mention the Teifi and Tywi. Under the current plans by Green Gen Cymru and Built Energy, a 90-kilometre long, 132 dual circuit line overhead line is being proposed, which has been met with widespread local resistance. Local people are passionately in favour of decarbonisation, but we simply ask that the Welsh Government's policy is implemented, which is that electric transmission cables should be placed underground where possible, not just in designated landscape, but where possible. We already know that undergrounding is already commonplace in many European countries, particularly through developing cable plough technology. The UK and Welsh governments should be placing greater emphasis for developers to incorporate such undergrounding into their proposals. Landowners across the Tywi and Teifi valleys are prepared to allow access for land if that commitment is made by Green Gen Cymru to underground. Unfortunately, despite many attempts by myself and others, the company refuses to make that commitment. This would undoubtedly save developers time and money if they could just fully engage meaningfully with our communities. In his maiden speech, Gwynfor Evans described Carmarthenshire as a county of great natural wealth, home to the only anthracite coalfield in Britain, steelworks, ports and vast agricultural potential. But he added, people see no evidence of this prosperity, and what they see is mines closing, railways closing, steelworkers being made redundant, as we have now, and a decline in agriculture. That is as true then as it is today, and rural depopulation remains an impending crisis in Caerfyrddin. I was born and raised in Llanathnau. I've only moved 4 miles in my entire life. And I farm there. I have a tenant dairy farm unit with my husband Gareth, who's up in the gallery there with my family and friends. And I'm a mother of 3 daughters and a granny of 7, a mamgi of 7. And I know I don't look it. You all should have jumped in there. You lost your opportunity, boys. But I'm all too aware of the shift amongst many of our younger generations away from agriculture, with many moving to cities to work. But if we allow global corporations to treat Wales as a playground for their activities, without ensuring that local communities benefit economically, socially and ecologically, then we only exacerbate the depopulation of our countryside. We've already seen large international corporations buying up farmland in Carmarthenshire to plant trees to offset their own carbon footprint, and this without changing any of their commercial practice. This is not the path to a sustainable future for our communities, and it's not the path towards food security or the best use of land. We need legislation that ensures local communities derive the greatest benefits from renewable energy investments. Climate action cannot succeed while we continue to encourage an extractive economy, and it is our responsibility to develop our rural economy to be locally focused, that creates well-paid jobs for local people and regenerates wealth within our communities. As the member of Caerfyrddin, I want to see a different economic model for Wales, one that is locally owned, where the benefits are retained within our communities and where development is driven not solely for profit, but for the well-being of our people. We should adopt a more distributed, decentralised model of energy generation, and one that spreads ownership and benefits broadly across our communities. These 2 aspects, ownership and benefit, must go hand in hand. To return to Gwynfor's words from his maiden speech, the Welsh are beginning to take their country as seriously as the English take theirs, and as seriously as the Danes and the Swedes take their country. And thanks to Gwynfor and the foundation he laid, the people of Wales do now take their country seriously. We have our own lawmaking parliament, and our two languages, the Welsh and English, officially have full equal status in public life. There's much we can still do and learn from other nations. And Denmark has rooted its decarbonisation efforts in local ownership. This approach has accelerated their progress because it has garnered widespread public support. In Denmark, there's been a legal requirement since 2009 for at least 20% of renewable energy projects to be offered to local ownership. The Institute of Welsh Affairs has recently suggested a similar threshold of around 15% as a minimum for Wales. And this is the kind of forward thinking that we need.
Yeah.
And during this election campaign, many people kept saying to me, "You're not a normal politician." And my response was, well, why aren't I? Because I am a mum, I am a mumgy, I'm a farmer, I'm a business owner, we run a children's nursery, which we started from scratch. I'm a former teacher and I'm a lecturer. And there isn't a training module for this job, is there? It's just life experience. And I'm determined in this new role to show women in Carmarthenshire that we all belong in the rooms where decisions are taken, absolutely. I carry with me the voices of those who have been overlooked for far too long, farmers who toil the land, families who strive for a better future, and communities that deserve far more than the crumbs from the table. The path forward must be one where Wales controls its own destiny, and where the wealth of our natural resources enriches our people, where the decisions that shape our future are made not in boardrooms far away, but by the very people who live and work in our communities. That's how we ensure protection for our environment and our society for the years to come. Diolch yn fawr.
Yeah.
Maiden speech, Elaine Stewart.